Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott. I regularly use tablets as a part of my own personal workflow. I have an iPad Pro 11-inch model that I use pretty much every day for a variety of things throughout the day. And when I travel, I tend to take it along and with a keyboard often rather than packing along a laptop because there's a lot that I'm accustomed to doing on it. As a byproduct, I remain interested in testing tablets because there's always new tablets coming to market. And I'm also interested in seeing, although I'm more familiar with the iPad side of things, how that the competition is doing. And so I had an opportunity. I do get pitched on tablets regularly, but when I saw the spec list for the tablet I'm reviewing today, there were some things there that really intrigued me. Namely, as I looked at it, I saw some things that interested me about the screen itself, and then some things that also looked tempting to me about the audio on it. And so as a byproduct, I said yes to the Blackview Tab 18 that is just coming to market, which is a 12-inch Android 13 tablet. And after spending some time with it and traveling with it, something that I like to do, if I'm going on a trip rather than taking along my iPad, I take along just the tablet I'm reviewing and hopefully some accessories, and so I can see how it fills in my everyday routine. And after spending some time with it in just that kind of situation, I feel like this might be your best bang for your buck if you're looking for an Android tablet and have a budget of $300 or less. That's for a couple of primary reasons. Number one, you're getting more screen area than competing tablets, 12 inches versus 11 inches. And also you are getting way better sound than what I have seen from competing tablets before. So while I traveled, as mentioned, I used the keyboard case extensively during that time. I used the active stylus/pen. I used that a little bit, and I will note, however, that unlike some of my complaints about other of these Android tablets, this one actually magnetically attaches, so that is a bonus there. And here are my thoughts after having used it for a little while. First of all, let's talk about the size, the build, and the handling here. So in terms of the size, this is 277 millimeters, right under 11 inches across. It is 173 millimeters, or right under 7 inches wide, and it is 7.9 millimeters thick. So yeah, it's definitely thicker than what my iPad Pro is. However, it is about the same thickness as, say, the Doogee T30 Pro tablet I reviewed last year. Now, this is a little bit heavier than the Doogee at 632 grams, but when I crunch the numbers because of the extra screen area, it's about the same size to weight ratio as the Doogee T30 Pro. The chassis here is aluminum on the outside. Now I'm reviewing it in the safe gray color. You can also get it in a green and blue tones as well. I will note, as far as the fit and the finish, that the tolerances are very nice. There's a nice beveled feel to it and a slightly flocked texture that makes it decent to hang on to, though, as is true with just about all these tablets, I don't love the idea of just holding them alone. I feel much safer when they are inside of a case. Now, on that note, inside the box itself, here's what comes in the box. Inside the box, it comes with the tablet, obviously, and the tablet does come with a glass screen protector already installed, which is fantastic. That way you don't have to worry about bubbles or getting it wrong. But also really nice that in the box, there's a bonus screen protector that's included as well, which I really appreciate. It comes with, unusually these days, a set of wired headphones. And because there is no 3.5 millimeter jack here, it is a USB-C end designed to plug into the USB-C port. But it does come with headphones. It does come with an AC adapter along with a USB-C cord for charging. Now, included is also a smart case in the box. And so it's smart in the sense it will auto turn on and off. The case itself is fine. It's nothing spectacular, but everything pops in there nicely. I do have one complaint. There's one groove here, so there's only one viewing angle. So you can either do it laptop style, you can fold it over and fit it into that groove from the back, and you can lean it like this. My one problem with it is that I find that it is really easy to collapse like that. That groove could be deeper, and the keyboard case, which is optional obviously, it uses a magnetic attachment to plug into its slot there, and you can see how stable it is by comparison. And so I do like the smart cover to some degree, but I don't love it when I'm trying to prop it up. but it is nice and slim and does give some protection to the tablet itself. Now, also part of the physical design is that we have 2 security measures here. We do have a face detect option, and then also there is a fingerprint scanner that is on the power button. And actually both of those things work just fine. No complaints on that front. Other external things is your volume controls, and then on the other side it's on the same side, we actually have the slot where you have a dual SIM slot there. Now unfortunately it's not 5G, it is 4G compatible, but you also have the option of using one of those SIM card slots as a micro SD to expand your storage. More on that in just a moment. Now, when it comes to the screen, that's one of the big selling features here. This is a 12-inch IPS 2.4K display. So that's a resolution of 2000 by 1200 pixels. You can see that the actual screen area relative to the bezel is a nice ratio. It's 86.6% screen to body ratio. That's better than most of these. The best I've seen previously is 85%. And so getting up to nearly 87% is a definite improvement there. So it just means that relative to the screen size, the tablet stays just a little bit smaller. The screen itself, as mentioned, it's IPS, and it can get nice and bright up to 350 nits of brightness. And what I did note is that I basically never had to take it up past 50%. It is bright enough for any kind of lighting conditions, so you can use it outside. The bigger problem with all of these tablet screens outside is these screens are so reflective that if you're in a bright situation, yeah, you can crank up the brightness on that, but there's always going to be reflections in view. And so that does limit that effectiveness just a little bit. One thing that I do find a pro and a con here. One of the main pros is one of the things I do with the tablet every day is that I read news and I read my Bible on it every morning in a Bible app. And so I'm very accustomed to holding at a certain angle and reading things on the screen. And one of the things I've found with other tablets, Android tablets, relative to my iPad is that the viewing angle is not great. And so even in a setting like that, part of the screen is really darkened by comparison to the main area that's at a better viewing angle. That's not true here, so that's a huge improvement. In fact, I felt like this was more similar to my iPad Pro screen in terms of having a great viewing angle. That's also really, really important if you're wanting to share the screen with someone else. Maybe you're viewing some media content, and so you don't have to worry about being straight in front of it to get a decent kind of viewing angle as far as the brightness. So that's the pro. The con here is that I've yet to see an Android tablet that's anywhere near as good as iPad when it comes to adaptive brightness. And I find that if I turn on the adaptive brightness, the screen is almost always too dim. And so I've actually been more pleased with just setting a screen brightness level, and I find that the screen is good enough that I can basically just not mess with it unless I'm in a really extreme circumstance and I need to tweak it up or down. Most of the time, though, I can just set a brightness level about 40%. And I can leave it there and be perfectly happy with it. It does have the TÜV blue light certification, so a little bit easier on the eye. And another cool feature it has is the ability to switch into a reading mode where everything is black and white. It makes it a fairly impressive e-reader, though because of those reflection issues, I still prefer my actual dedicated e-reader because the matte finish on that screen just makes it easier to read outside. Now the screen does also, and the tablet has Widevine L1 support, which means you're going to be able to watch from the various streaming services at the highest resolution possible for the tablet. I believe that's 1080p. And so as a byproduct, you're not getting things dumbed down because it doesn't have that certification. So that actual ratio, it works really well for a couple of things. One of those things obviously is when you're in this horizontal mode, it works really well as a media device because this nice, widescreen look means you can fill a lot of video content on the screen. The other way it works well is if you put things side by side. You can put an app side by side, and so you can do a little bit of maybe productivity work. And I find that it works nicely for that because there's enough width that you have a reasonable amount of screen space for each app. Another thing that the actual OS does here, which I like, is that it actually makes the active window brighter than the other. And so say if I'm working in one on a Word document and I'm using another window for reference, if I'm typing, it's going to be brighter in that window. It just helps you to know very quickly which one you're working on. It also does have a PC mode, which you can switch into, and basically in PC mode, the biggest thing is that you can actually resize the windows to whatever size that you want. And so you can put more things on the screen. But, remember at the end of the day, this is still a relatively small screen for that kind of work. And there's only so much you can put on a screen at once. Now, as noted, one thing that really set this apart was the audio performance. When I saw that the audio was provided by Harman, I was very impressed by that for a budget tablet, and I was not disappointed in the performance. Most of these tablets, they sound really, really tinny compared to the much better audio in my iPad Pro. In this case, I put them side by side for video and music, and I was very hard pressed to tell any difference. I would say if I was pushed to the max, I might very slightly prefer the iPad Pro still, but it is by such a tiny margin. And so that is true of both the sound stage, which is much wider and less affected than what I would say is true of other tablets, Android tablets that I've reviewed, but also the amount of volume you can get without any kind of distortion. You also comes with not only the Harman speakers, but it also comes with Harman Audio Effects 2.0, some processing for that. And I found that if you will match the processing to what you're actually doing, there is a smart mode and it works fairly well, but I found a better performance. If I was listening to music, put it into music mode, watching a movie, put it into movie mode, playing a game, put it into gaming mode, and it really helps the sound to sparkle in those situations. And so the fact that side by side, it was very much comparable to my iPad Pro 11 was a very, very impressive win for this tablet that cost, cost less than a third of what the iPad does. Now, as far as connectivity, you've got all of the standard Wi-Fi connections at this point, the 5 different, Wi-Fi network options. You've got dual band performance. You have the ability to have 4 different GPS systems that it can access to make sure that you have, good GPS triangulation when you're out using it in that setting. And again, it's limited at 4G LTE. So you can run 2 different SIMs in it, or you can, run a SIM card plus an SD card for more storage. But you do have the option to run it on 2 different networks if that's your thing. So that's nice, but you're not going to have anything that is 5G compatible here. Bluetooth works great, no problems with that. As noted previously, there is no headphone jack, so you're either going to need to use Bluetooth headphones or a wired headphone that has a USB-C adapter at the far end of it. Now, as far as the processing is more standard here than what I'm accustomed to. It seems like all of these tablets use the same architecture. It is a Helio G99 octa-core processor, and so that is 2.2 gigahertz Cortex A76 processors, along with 6 2 gigahertz A55 processors. It's built on a 6 nanometer kind of design, and so that does help it to be fairly efficient, but again, it's not setting it apart. What does set this apart a little bit from some of the other tablets that I've reviewed, Android tablets, is that there is both more RAM on board, like real RAM, 12 gigabyte is available here, but then also you have the ability to do the virtual expanded RAM at an additional 12 gigabytes. So up to, air quotes, up to 24 gig of RAM. So obviously that's just a little bit more power under the hood. The tablet I'm testing comes with 256 gigabyte of storage, so lots of storage there. And of course, unlike Apple, it is easily expandable, and you can expand up to an additional terabyte via the micro SD card. So all of that is great. And as far as the speed, I basically found that everything runs pretty similar to my iPad. Only difference is this does take a little bit longer to boot up from when it's completely powered down. It takes a little bit longer to load into the OS. But once it's there, apps open nice and snappy. I'm not a big gamer on a tablet, but I was able to play a little bit of games, no problem there. More important to me, my productivity software all worked just fine. Without any kind of slowdown, tablet was easy to set up. All good on that front. Now, it also has an 8800 mAh battery, so a good sized battery in it, and a spec that's definitely better than a lot of the tablets I've reviewed. It has a 33 watt fast charging capability. And so that means that you can get that big battery recharged a whole lot faster. You can go 0 to 50% in about an hour. Obviously, if you're going to top all the way up, it'll slow down a little bit at the end, as they do for battery management. But you can recharge it enough to where you're not going to have any kind of battery issues. And I was able to do a variety of things throughout the day, and I actually felt like doing some of the exact same things that I'm accustomed to doing on my iPad. I had a little bit higher percentage of battery left over at the end of the day with the Tab 18 than what I do with my iPad. So finally, let's talk very briefly about these accessories. I really do like the keyboard case here. As I've already pointed out, it sits very nicely. The actual action of the keys is good. It is not backlit. And the other thing about it is that it is Bluetooth rather than direct contact. I have the Magic Keyboard for my iPad, and it uses the actual electronic contacts, and so it shares the battery of the actual tablet. In this case, you have a separate battery, can be charged by USB-C, and it's Bluetooth connected. I would prefer it to be the other way, like it is with, say, the Doogee T30 Pro, but at the same time, everything actually is nice here as far as the typing action, and so I have zero complaints about that. As noted, it's not backlit, but everything else seems to work just fine, and I didn't notice much, if any, Bluetooth lag, which is one thing that I was concerned about being pure Bluetooth. One, if there's any kind of advantage to it being Bluetooth as opposed to a direct connection, is that for some reason I find that there are a few apps. Unfortunately, one of them is actually the YouTube Studio app that will work fine in vertical mode on iOS, but for some reason, it only will work in vertical orientation, and I've not found a way to get around that on a lot of Android. And so as a byproduct, I can at least set it up right like this, and I can actually continue to work in a vertical mode. I don't mind that function. So some good and some bad there. But what's great here is this keyboard case only sets you back $39.99 US. That is a huge value. This active stylus, it doesn't seem quite as good as the iPad Pencil, but it does the job, and it will run you about 45 bucks. So the sum total of all of these accessories, the tablet, the keyboard case, and the stylus, is about $365 US. For my Magic Keyboard, for my iPad alone, $280. So when you're talking about a value, the value here is fantastic. So in conclusion, this is obviously an incredible value for a tablet that both looks and sounds better than a lot of the competitors out there on the market. You're getting a little bit more screen real estate, you're getting better sound, and basically all the other specs are roughly similar to what you're getting out there. But obviously, I think a stronger value because of those two things alone. And so if you're looking for a budget Android tablet, I would say that this is the winner in the marketplace right now. If you want more information, you can look in the description down below. I do have a written review where I dive into a few more things there. There's also some buying links if you'd like to check it out. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and let the light in.